management, and he shut the company down. Now, he had a big printing company and other things, but he had a company like Global, and so he shut it down. And he came to me in 1988, and he said, look, I know your reputation. I know who you are. I know what you've done. He said, look, I've got this company, and he explained to me, and I knew all about it because we tried to put him out of business. So he said, would you come and talk to me about reviving this company? I said, sure. So we went and had lunch. He said, if you'll come and take this company over, you build it. He said, you do it exactly like you want to do it, I'll give you half of it. That's how the prophecy came through, the word that was spoken over me, that God will give you your own company. You won't have to strive, struggle, strain, or borrow money for it to happen. That's how it happened. He put up the money, and that's how I ended up owning half of it. Now, here's what happened. First board meeting, he looks across the table at me, and he says, I'll make an agreement with you. For 10 years, you don't touch any of the profit, and I won't. He said, let's see what happens. Well, 10 years later, and I'm leaving out a whole lot of stuff in between, 10 years later, we had wheelbarrows of money stacked up. Several $1 million saved through letting the profits stay in the business over a 10-year period. But here's what kind of guy he was. In 1997, we grew so well in the 1990s. Anybody remember how good the business environment was in the 1990s? Yes. I mean, you just look the right way and you make money. I mean, we were killing it, guys. About 1997, Wall Street come knocking at the door, and a group of underwriters said, we want to take you public. You've been growing for 35% a year. We're all about you. So my guys on my board, this man included, wanted to get out of the business. They were all they're 15 years older than I am. They want to get out. They were going to get their investments out and retire and take it easy. Right? Now, he didn't do that. He's still in business today. And so what happened, this was the way I could find that I could get them their money, because I wasn't going to borrow the money to buy the company out. And number one, I don't think I could have done it. I mean, it was millions. So what I did was I said, okay, here's what we'll do. We'll go public. You get your money. That's it. Everybody's happy. What I didn't do, and this is where I missed God, I didn't ask God about it. That's a problem, guys. That wasn't what he had for me. He'd given me these businesses. He spoke to me after this was over, and he said, I've given you these businesses as a platform to teach, train, mentor, and disciple the next generation of business leaders. I didn't give it to you to sell. So we went up to New York. We were going on the New York Stock Exchange. We were staying at the Mark Athenae Hotel. Patsy was there. My senior executives were there. The underwriters were there. It was rah-rah. Everybody's having a great time. I mean, IPOs on the New York Stock Exchange were making fortunes for people. And that's what we were planning to do. So the night before we're about to go public on the New York Stock Exchange, the underwriters come to the hotel and said, we got some bad news. Now, I didn't know at the time, but God was slamming the door. Since I'm not smart enough to ask God what I need to do, sometimes he has to help me out. He was slamming the door on this thing. It was the afternoon that the Bill Clinton-Monica Lewinsky scandal broke. 70% of my institutional investors were from Britain, and they all ran like a bunch of scared rabbits. And, that's the way it goes in the stock market. Something like that happens, you don't know what's going to happen. Volatility moves in. So we had to pull the IPO. I sent everybody home. I spent 3 days cleaning up the mess, got on the airplane, headed home, and sat down and quiet in that airplane for the first time in weeks. And I said, God, I don't have a vision. I don't have a plan. This was supposed to stop. It was supposed to end it right here. They had picked me to be the COO of the new company. It's going to be a $1.5 billion company, about 4,600 employees. I was going to be the chief operating officer, so they're like, I said, God, I just realized I got to figure this out. What am I going to tell my employees when I get back? Where are we going? So God reinvented the vision, helped me reinvent the vision at that point in my life. And so what happened was when I got back, I just basically told the people, look, this is what God's told me to do. We're going to have to teach, train, mentor the next generation of business leaders, and this is the platform we're going to do it on. And then I laid out the vision for the company. So those days of building those assets were very, very important. So here, look what God does. I still have this issue with these guys are investors. So Jim, this is the guy's name, he calls me after I got back into town. He said, look, he said, we needed some God wisdom, a God idea here. He said, why don't you pray over it for about 3 weeks? He said, I will, and I'll call you, and we'll get back together. 3 weeks went by. He calls me. He said, you got anything from God? I said, no. I didn't have a clue. Wasn't going to borrow the money. He knew I wasn't going to borrow it. He says, well, I think I've got an idea. Now, I know why God gave him the idea instead of me, because it had to be that way. You'll see why. So we go to lunch that day, and he says, here's what I think we need to do. He said, all that money we got piled up over there because we didn't touch the profits for 10 years, he said, why don't you just pay me with that money? And he said, I will. He basically did this, guys. This is what it boils down to. He let me pay him with half his money. Half of that belonged to him. Millions. And then he set the price so that I wouldn't have to borrow any money. Now that's a good friend, guys. That's how God blessed me so that I could own my company without any debt. And so that's one of the reasons when the underwriters came and the auditors came, I had one of them walk into my office one day when they were there for 2 weeks, and he said, we got a problem. He said, we can't find any record of debt. I said, well, that helps me, because if you find one, I want to know about it. The reason you don't find one is because we haven't been in debt. He said, you built a $100 million corporation without going in debt? I said, you're looking at it. Now don't tell, so the reason I'm telling you this is, don't tell me you can't do anything without debt. It's a deception, guys. My grandparents lived their whole lives and never borrowed a dime. Owned cars, had what they needed, never borrowed a dime. It can be done, and it can be done today. But you have to do it. You can't do it on one level of income, hoping that everything works all right with your job. Most jobs won't provide that kind of income. So you got to become an investor. You got to become somebody who understands the difference between an asset and a liability. Liabilities to an investor are things that cause negative monthly cash flow. I had people come to me and they say, I got this opportunity to buy this house, and it's really a great deal, and it's such a nice house, you ought to see it. Got a pretty little white picket fence or whatever. They fall in love with a house. They decide to buy it even though it's going to be a $200 a month negative cash flow. I said, no. If the numbers don't work, walk off. Don't fall in love with the white picket fence. It either look, guys, if you want to bless somebody, if you want to give. But you don't mix the two. You're going to do business, you do it for a profit. You do business as a profit so that you can have income to go over here and give. Don't decide that you're going to mix all of a sudden your business is going to become your way of giving only. It won't work. You got to make a profit. If your business doesn't make a profit, you're not going to stay in business. If you want to build wealth, you're going to have to make a consistent profit. You got to know whether something's going to make you money or not. I mean, that's why I've got a formula for buying homes. And if it doesn't fit, I don't care how sweet it is. I don't care how pretty the picket fence is. I don't care how it's such a darn little house. Will it be a darn little house for somebody else? Because it won't make me any money. You're in business to buy assets to create income and wealth. Or do something else. Go somewhere else. All right. But I started off today by saying, do it. Get in the game. Here's 7 steps to success. Take action. Pray. We have not because we ask not. That sounds simple, doesn't it? Take action. Do something. Tithe and give faithfully. Save and establish a storehouse. Everybody remember we talked about a storehouse in the first session? In part 1? Eliminate consumer debt. Actually, you can take consumer out of that. Just eliminate debt. Develop multiple streams of income. Invest your seed wisely. Make yourself accountable to someone who will help you follow through on your plan. 10 keys to building wealth. Now, this is all going to be in your syllabus, so don't worry about just sitting there and have to take all these things down as notes. You're going to have all this in your syllabus. Begin as early as possible. You know, we talked about the magic of compound interest. Remember, I think I mentioned it in part 1. A reporter one time asked Albert Einstein what was the most amazing thing he'd ever seen, most miraculous thing you've ever come across. And he said the magic of compound interest. And I use that example of a young man at 19 who saves $2,000 a year until he's 25 years old. He's got it invested at 6%. He decides he don't want to do it anymore. He quits. His buddy thinks it's a great idea. So at 25, he starts saving $2,000 a month at 6% interest and does it for 40 years. At the end of 40 years, who's got the most money? The 19-year-old. He'll have $940,000 change in his account. The other guy will have about $860. Go work the math out. Compound interest. Here's what it is, guys. Interest is not just a function of the percent of interest you're drawing. It's the amount of time that's involved. Is what the real key is. So young guys, young people sitting here and on the internet, you looking at me? Start now. Right now. Use your 401k or your IRA. Be wise about it. Get educated about it. Learn what's there. What's available to you. What vehicles are available to you to draw interest. One of the things I've done, especially over the last few years, is I've invested in gold. I was buying gold at $700, $900, $1,100. Now it's almost $1,800. Well, you can buy gold. You can keep it in your house, or you can have them store it for you in a warehouse. That's physical gold. You can also, through your 401k, that some 401ks and IRAs allow you to invest in gold, but all of them will allow you to invest in ETFs. An ETF is a fund that these are the companies that mine gold, that use gold in different ways. This year alone, my ETF gold funds have made 30%. How many of you know there was a recession going on? How many of you know if you look at Wall Street and listen to the news, you think everybody's making a negative 10%? And some of them have. A lot of the hedge fund operators have, you're talking about biting the dust, negative 40% this year. But guys, there's always opportunity. As a matter of fact, did you know that they've done studies that the greatest opportunities almost always come out of these kinds of crises? And you know, one of the things, Andrew asked me here recently to do in December, we're going to do a live, I think 2-hour interview. He's going to interview me, and I'm going to talk about the economy. I'm going to talk about the Federal Reserve and what effect it has on us. All these issues that are going on in our economy right now. Here's what I want people to see. If you listen to the talking heads and listen to the news and buy all that garbage that's coming out of Washington and out of New York, over the media and all these other places, blogs and everything, you just want, just shoot yourself or something. It's ridiculous. It's not the truth, guys. It's not the truth. Did you know that if they just wanted to point it out, did you know that there's as many or more things that are great and good about the economy as there are bad? It's not as bad as they're making it out to be. Yes, there are problems. Yes, our government's got issues. Biggest issue facing us right now is debt, $14 trillion worth of it, not now 16. Those issues are real. I'm not discounting those things. I'm just telling you that you and I are not subject to it. Amen. We operate in the kingdom of God. Every time the economy goes down, I've learned to do something with my companies. I get my people together and I say, here's what we're going to do. While the rest of them are having a recession, while the news media is going nuts, everybody's doing their thing, we're going to focus in our world. Here's our world. Here's where we live. We take care of our customers. We're going to get better at it. When we're in a recession and downtime, I take advantage of it by cross-training employees, send them to be educated. I invest in my assets.